It has become ridiculously expensive to fill up even the most fuel-efficient cars in South Africa, let alone me trying to fill up this massive 3-liter D4D that holds me at gunpoint and pickpockets me every time I want to go anywhere with it. But have you ever stopped to ask why fuel is so expensive in the country and where the money goes exactly when you fill up? Well, that's what we're going to figure out in this video by having a conversation. Let's talk about South Africa's huge fuel price problem and discover just how bad it really is. The price of fuel in South Africa comprises of 4 parts. So for every liter of petrol or diesel, for example, you are paying for the general fuel levy, the RAF or road accident fund levy, the basic fuel price, and wholesale and retail profit margins. So let's get into each one of those and try to break them down so that we have a good understanding of where your money goes whenever you fill your car up with petrol or diesel. So the general fuel levy or I went to public school, just forgive me, I don't know the correct way to pronounce this word. I'll put it up on screen here, the correct way to pronounce it.
Levy.
I'm gonna keep saying it wrong just because I don't know better and I can't be bothered to Google it right now. So yeah, let's move on. This levy is a general tax that goes straight to the government's pockets. It's kind of like VAT in a way. It does not go to any road related expenses. It is just a simple tax that goes straight to the government or the pockets of a 15-year-old mother somewhere in South Africa, like all of the other money that the government robs from us. But that's not the point I'm trying to make in this video. I think we have a general understanding of the general fuel levy. It is just a general tax, kind of like VAT. The RAF levy or the road accident fund levy is kind of self-explanatory. All of the money from this levy goes straight to the road accident fund to compensate victims of road accidents or any kind of incident that happens on national roads in South Africa. Moving on. But before we move on, I just wanted to give you a bit of perspective. Just those 2 taxes alone, the general fuel levy and the RAF levy, constitute 38% of the price of fuel. So 38% of what you pay for fuel is not even for the fuel, it is just straight tax. But let's move on to see where the other money goes. To explain the basic fuel price, we must first understand how fuel works in South Africa. In South Africa, we import a majority of our petroleum products, with only about 30% being produced locally or being refined locally, I should say. And so the basic fuel price is the price to gas all of those petroleum products from refineries in the Arab Gulf and Singapore into the country. This is the price that our country pays to buy fuel from those international refineries. So then the basic fuel price will obviously include stuff like shipping, storage, shipping insurance, and the cost to offload those petroleum products from the ships that come from abroad into our harbors so that they can be distributed locally. And the final fee that you pay when you pour petrol is the fee of capitalism, my friends, profit margins. So on top of all of the fees, the basic fuel price, both of the levies or levies, we've been through this. But on top of all of that, distributors and petrol station owners will still need to make their money off of you. So the price of fuel also includes their profit margins. They have to make money some kind of way, and unfortunately that is reflected in the price that you pay. So yes, my friends, that is everything that you pay for every time you buy petrol or pour petrol into your car. Let's kind of do an example from AA just so you can get a better grasp of just how kind of bad it is in terms of petrol pricing in South Africa. So in December 2020, you could fill up a 50-liter tank with 93 unleaded petrol for 711 Rand and 50 cents. Man, the good old days when you could fill up a 50-liter for that little money. But anyway, yeah, you could fill up a 50-liter with 711 Rand and 50 cents. 96 Rand 50 cents goes straight to RAF, the road accident fund. 168 Rand and 50 cents would go to the general levy, so straight to tax. That is 168 Rand 50 cents. And 156 Rand would go to all of the other associated costs that we've talked about, stuff like shipping, storage, transportation, profit margins, everything 156 rand of your 711 rand 50 cents would go towards those. And at the end of the day, only 290 rand and 50 cents would go towards the actual fuel that is going into your tank. So only 41% of your money goes towards the thing that you actually want, with the other 59% going towards billionaires and their millionaire friends. I hope that makes you sleep better at night. So yeah, I hope you think about that every time you fill up. I certainly will. I definitely will be thinking about that fact every time I fill up. It will haunt me for the rest of my life from this point on. But let's move on with the video and kind of get to the crux of why it seems like petrol or diesel has gotten so incredibly expensive in South Africa nowadays. To find out why fuel is so expensive nowadays, we must first discover the factors affecting fuel pricing in South Africa. So on top of all the other things that we've just talked about, there are also external factors that have a much greater effect on the final price that you end up paying for your petrol, with those factors that we talked about in the first part of the video being internal factors, stuff that, as you see as I continue to explain, does affect your pricing, but on a month-to-month basis it has less of an effect, way less of an effect on the price that you pay for petrol than what the external factors do. So let's try and get into those. So the internal factors are adjusted yearly, roundabout from what I could find. They are adjusted yearly, and the external factors are adjusted on a monthly basis. That is why I'm saying they are actually what end up having the biggest impact on your wallet. So yeah, these are those external factors. FOB, or free on board values, are the prices quoted for petroleum products from the overseas refineries that we get our petrol and diesel, like our petroleum products from. These are places like the Mediterranean, the Arab Gulf, like I've already talked about, and Singapore. So basically this is the price that our country pays for fuel from the suppliers, if you want to call them that. Those FOB values are set using the dollar, because obviously globally the dollar is the medium of trade, the medium of exchange. And so the biggest thing affecting what you pay for fuel, drum roll please, is the dollar to rand or rand to dollar exchange rate. So if the rand is stronger, the fuel is cheaper, and vice versa. It is just as simple as that. So even if global fuel prices stay the same from the suppliers, from the refineries, if the rand falls, the price of fuel in South Africa skyrockets. That is the biggest thing that affects your wallet when it comes to fuel. And obviously there are many factors affecting the exchange rate, causing it to change, which I'm not going to get into in this video. I am not an economist, but knowing me, I'll probably make a video about that at some point in the future if it has something to do with cars. But at least now you know, or you have an idea of what actually causes fluctuations in the price of fuel in South Africa. It has less to do with the price of crude oil internationally and more to do with our country not doing as well as it is supposed to do economically. And while the exchange rates and FOB values might be the most significant factors contributing to short-term changes in fuel pricing, the internal factors that we've already talked about also have a profound impact on fuel pricing in the long term. For example, the basic fuel price is anchored to international crude oil prices. So if the price of crude oil goes up internationally, that automatically means that the base price of fuel, the base price of petrol or diesel in the country is also going to get more expensive, once again pushing up the price that you end up paying. The general fuel and RAF levies or levies, man, I am struggling throughout this video. Please flame me in the comments. I deserve it. But those taxes go up on a yearly basis. Taxes in general in the country have been steadily increasing because of, politics stuff I am not going to get into. That is stuff that is way beyond the scope of this video, but those also contribute to higher fuel prices. The wholesale and retail profit margins also see a steady year-on-year increase just because of simple inflation. I mean, it's quite simple. If the cost of goods sold increases, you have to increase the price that you charge for said goods. It's the only way that people can run their businesses. When everything else is going up, they also have to raise their own prices. They kind of have no choice. Inflation will also increase the cost of stuff like transport and storage storage, and all the other associated costs that we've touched on in this video. And now that we've talked about the causes of high fuel prices in South Africa, let's now dive deeper to figure out the consequences of such high prices on regular South Africans and on South Africa as a whole, apart from the obvious one of crippling our wallets. So the high cost of fuel in South Africa actually has a profound impact not only on the individual consumer, but on the economy as a whole. Higher fuel prices means that consumers and businesses have to pay more for transport, something that is going to be reflected in the price that businesses charge for their goods and services, and something, as we'll touch on later in the video, also impacts the amount of expendable income that consumers have to stimulate the economy. And we're going to touch on it right now. See, spending more money on petrol or diesel or taxi fare means that you have less disposable income, which makes you less likely to spend your money on non-essential items. This negatively impacts the economy because obviously consumers is just simply spending less money, so it is less stimulated. I don't know what the opposite of stimulation is. Depression. You depress the economy when you don't buy Lacoste t-shirts. Moving on. This is getting silly. And like we talked about when we were talking about transport, when transport cost increases, it causes an increase in the cost of goods and services, because transport is one of the most significant factors affecting the pricing of goods and services in the country, and I think generally just globally. Transport is kind of the backbone of the global economy, and higher cost of goods and services obviously means more inflation, meaning that people with fixed incomes actually have less spending power, which obviously is going to drastically decrease their standard of living. And in South Africa specifically, fuel prices have profound consequences on a societal level. Stuff like increased taxi fare for working class South Africans who don't have access to cars, hikes in fuel prices triggering strikes from taxi associations, truck driver associations, and unions, which drastically slows down economic activity, and smaller or even bigger transport companies not being able to cover the higher cost of fuel, leading to them downsizing or shutting down completely, obviously stimulating unemployment. I don't know if you can really stimulate unemployment. It causes it to be worse. I wouldn't call it stimulation in a way, because unemployment is bad. Ask me how I know. Anyway, but yeah guys, that was the video about fuel prices in South Africa. As always, I always enjoy making these videos, even though YouTube has banished the channel to the shadow realm for some reason since our big video like a few weeks ago, but that's fine. I'm passionate about everything that I'm talking about, especially fuel prices in South Africa. It's just really intriguing for me to go behind the veil and kind of see where my money goes, and I hope it was as enlightening for you as it was for me. But yeah, that is it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.